committee. I'll be describing Senate Bill 5104. It's regarding surveying Puget Sound marine shoreline habitat. Some brief background: the Department of Ecology does maintain a Washington coastal atlas that has shoreline images of the Washington coast and Puget Sound. This data was made available through a cooperation of federal and state agencies, including NOAA, DNR, and the Department of Fish and Wildlife. In the bill before you, by June 30 of 2024, the Department of Ecology must conduct a baseline survey of Puget Sound marine shorelines that would include georeferenced aerial and on-the-water views of the shoreline. In addition, a marine survey would be completed by June 30 of 2025, to document and map existing shoreline conditions and structures. Both of these surveys would be updated on a regular 2-year cycle. There is a fiscal note available that shows $1.7 million per biennium. That's to collect data, update maps, and make it available to the public. And with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Jeff. I don't see any questions. Senator Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. This is a bill that we passed out of the Senate last year, died in House of Propes, ran out of time. We need an accurate and up-to-date baseline survey of marine shorelines to understand what development has occurred and where to prioritize habitat restoration and protection actions, and also to better help with local planning implementation. This will help us better understand shoreline conditions and enable a meaningful and strategic action to address impacts on marine ecosystems, including supporting forage fish, salmon, orcas, and marine birds. And will give us robust and up-to-date detail on what's going on out there. So with that, thank you very much.
Thank you, Senator Solomon. I don't see any questions. We can have Tim Gates from Ecology and Don Gorley from Puget Sound Partnership come up. We're going to go to our first remote testifier, Amy Carey. While she's coming up on the screen, 212 people pro on this, not needing to testify, 2 con. So Amy, whenever you come up, go ahead.
I think I'm up. I can see myself.
We can see and hear you. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Well, I want to say good afternoon, Chair, and to all the committee members. My name's Amy Carey. I'm the Executive Director of Sound Action. Sound Action is an environmental organization, and we have a mission of protecting marine nearshore habitat throughout the Washington state portion of the Salish Sea. And I'm here today providing enthusiastic support for Senate Bill 5104. And I did just want to note that our partners at the Seattle Aquarium, Audubon, Washington, Friends of the San Juans, and Puget Soundkeeper have been working with us as a coalition on this legislation. So the short time after juvenile salmon first enter the Salish Sea and travel through nearshore habitat is an incredibly critical period. It's when they need more and larger prey and intact habitat to grow and to survive. But we know the number of salmon that are actually surviving their time in these marine waters of the Salish Sea has plummeted drastically in recent decades. And one reason for that is the decline in habitat because of development-related ecological changes in the marine nearshore. And currently we have information gaps that are severely limiting the effectiveness of both public and private actions to help recover the marine food web that is so critical for these juvenile salmon, and then in turn, of course, for the southern resident orcas. As Senator Solomon noted, it's imperative that we have accurate and up-to-date baseline survey information on these marine shorelines to capture information on development conditions and to really inform and help prioritize habitat restoration and our protection actions. And this bill does that by requiring and funding regular and ongoing baseline shoreline surveys that use new technology to capture and map information through advanced aerial and on-the-water imagery. The result of this is high-quality information on nearshore conditions that can help identify sites to prioritize for mitigation or other restoration and planning actions. And it really supports a wide range of uses throughout the state, whether that's public or private. And just as a few examples, we see that it really supports the Department of Natural Resources' amazing efforts to remove creosote pilings and debris from aquatic lands. It directly informs and supports local shoreline master programs, salmon recovery programs, and the Puget Sound Partnership's Nearshore Credits Program, which is just a few of those areas that we could see really benefit from this legislation. So I want to thank Senator Solomon again for his leadership and urge committee members to support this Nearshore survey bill. Provides clear benefit to nearshore habitat protection and salmon and orca recovery.
Jeff Olson, do you remember, does this bill include, with the definition of the Salish Sea, does it include Hood Canal?
Yes, it's Hood Canal and the Strait of Juan de Fuca that was added from last year.
Okay, thank you. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and members of the committee. I'm Tim Gates with Ecology Shorelands Program. We support the direction in Senate Bill 5104 for Ecology to create and maintain this survey of Puget Sound shoreline conditions and update it every 2 years. The survey would provide very valuable information, and as Senator Solomon summarized so succinctly, to gather information for the survey, the bill does require us to gather new kinds of information. Two specific kinds of imagery are called out. The first is an on-water view of the shoreline, and this is something akin to Google Street View. You know, when you click on Google Street View, you get an immersive view of the street. This would be like Google Street View for the shorelines of Puget Sound. And like that software, private information would be blurred, so it would address privacy concerns. I know we heard that at the last time this bill was heard. We have been assured that the final product would be able to protect privacy. The bill also directs Ecology to collect and publish oblique air photos more frequently and with higher spatial accuracy than the photos we currently collect every 7 to 10 years on our atlas. We support the bill, but we do have a few observations about time and money. The deadlines in the bill for collecting the initial survey, for the initial imagery and publishing the survey are very ambitious, and so I think the bill would benefit from extending those by at least a year. The fiscal note that was published today does include some indeterminate costs, so we are still trying to nail those down, and we'll hope to update that fiscal note with more accurate estimates soon. Lastly, I want to point out that the legislature did commission a study last year for Commerce to evaluate air photo imagery needs among state agencies and local and tribal governments. And the study will include a cost-benefit analysis and make recommendations for improving efficiency in gathering oblique imagery, such as cost-sharing models. So we've participated in that study, and we understand a final report will be out in May, and that shoreline photos will be considered in those recommendations. So I bring that up because there may be cost savings associated with collecting the aerial imagery components in the future, depending on the outcomes from that report. And then as a final note, the bill has costs that are not reflected in the governor's budget. Thank you very much. Happy to answer questions.
Thank you, Chair Vanderweg and members of the committee for this opportunity to testify, and thank you to Vice Chair Solomon for sponsoring Senate Bill 5104. My name is Don Gorley, and I am testifying in support of the bill on behalf of the Puget Sound Partnership, the state agency tasked with leading the collaborative effort to protect and restore Puget Sound. And for the record, this hearing is making me hungry for cake and butter and steak, all of it. We support the bill's intent to require consistent monitoring of Puget Sound's shoreline, although we note that there is a fiscal impact not in the governor's budget. Having eyes on or images of the shoreline is the best way to accurately monitor the health of our shorelines and inform a variety of programs. Senator Solomon and Amy already talked a little bit about the value of our shorelines. The main thing I want to share with you today is how our various partners who protect and restore Puget Sound have told us they would use the data collected by this program. Given the limited capacity that many of our partners have, a database of shoreline imagery can help address limitations in being able to conduct site visits. Even when site visits are possible, the photos can be helpful as a first stop for general reconnaissance prior to fieldwork or site visits, and can be helpful to see the same site at a different tidal elevation or during a different season. The imagery will be useful for identifying restoration sites and developing project proposals and outreach materials, for identifying derelict vessels and structures in need of removal or repair, for informing shoreline master planning and adaptive management of those plans, for assessing coastal changes over time for planning and cumulative impacts analyses, for reviewing applications for shoreline permits, and for tracking the results of implemented armor removal and soft shore projects. Thank you for the opportunity to share how the proposed program could help Puget Sound protection and restoration efforts.
Thank you both. I don't see any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.